Welcome to the UCB Inner Sanctum. Please welcome to the stage the Cracked Podcast. Welcome to this live episode of the Cracked Podcast, brought to you by Season 2 of Those Who Can't. On truTV, which is a hilarious show that you should be watching. It's on 10:30s on Thursdays, and it's super funny. Like a live-action Simpsons set in your high school. This is a great show, right?
I would watch that, yeah.
All right, so joining me on stage, he is a senior editor at Cracked, I think. I don't know what his title is. Please welcome Crack's resident heartthrob, Soren Bowie. Bowie. And next to him, he's Cracked, the head of Cracked Video and the caboose of the party train. Please welcome Mr. Daniel O'Brien. Not quite as high. Now you might notice two suspiciously respectable-looking people to my right. He is 1/3 of the comedy trio that created and stars in Those Who Can't. Please welcome Andrew Orvidal.
Thank you, thank you.
That went so well.
As we practiced, just like we practiced.
And she plays Abby on Those Who Can't and has appeared in Strangers with Candy, Arrested Development, Portlandia, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Eagleheart, just all of my favorite comedy things of the past 10 years. Please welcome Maria Thayer. Oh, I missed it. Do it again.
Are you booing? Are you booing?
None of you bowed at the end. You should be killed.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for having us
having
here.
Take down these teachers,
Yeah.
America's most overrated, overpaid
time.
profession. No, it's a wonderful profession, and we're going to be talking about things that we always suspected about teachers. Those Who Can't kind of gives you a look behind the curtain at a typical high school, right? It's kind of cinema verite, like just.
Well, we always think when we're writing it, we'll be like, oh, if they actually did this, they'd all go to jail. And then you'll read in the news, like the next day, someone doing something similar to that. So it feels to us like a fantasy world, but it does seem to pop up here and there.
We're going to have some anonymous teachers come up and kind of confirm or deny some of the darker suspicions that we have about their profession. But first, I wanted to kind of get you guys' thoughts on just things that you always suspected about your teachers. Like, I always suspected English teachers liked to smoke pot just based on all the English teachers I had, and history teachers liked to drink because they were always the ones who would show movies like for a whole day. So I assumed they were just like super hungover.
I like thinking of Jack's classes as a kid where the teacher for history just shows up and is like, I've got VHS of Hunt for Red October or Birth of a Nation. Which do you guys want to watch?
Do you guys have you done any thinking about teachers as somebody who's writing and playing a teacher or teachers?
All my teachers in real life were pretty boring. Like, I did have a history teacher who had like a red nose that now I know. I'm like, oh, that dude was like hardcore drinking every night. Like, just gin from the bottle, like a Gatorade. But other than that, yeah, they were pretty dull. There was a teacher who, this isn't funny, but I mean, we're talking about poor behavior. There was a teacher who started like a nonprofit helping like runaway teens, and then they found out he was like sleeping with some of the teens.
Ooh.
Like, yeah, that's
okay,
horrible.
So that's actually something I want to talk about because that anytime sorry.
Anyway, back to you, Jack, on that too. Just wacky stuff. Just wacky stuff.
No, anytime I talk to a woman, they're always like, "Oh yeah, I knew like a teacher who was sleeping with a student."
Yeah, a teacher got fired at my school for sleeping with a student, and then also my drama teacher, who I was very naive, so I never thought that anyone ever did anything wrong. I still sort of think that, but in high school, I really didn't think it. But I remember outside of the theater, this girl who was the lead in all the plays, even though I ended up being the actress.
In your face,
But you're not mad about it, at least. It's not fueling you to this very day.
Anyway.
She just puts a hyperlink to your IMDb on her Facebook every month.
If you're watching, Cindy, here I am.
How the tables have turned.
that outside of the theater, he had gloves on, and I always suspected something was going on, and she bit them off like a sexy movie or something. Like, you
That's
know what
not
I
a
mean?
sexy movie.
Yeah.
That is.
No,
It
one
would
of those
happen
sexy
in a
movies.
sexy movie.
Biting off somebody's glove.
Just like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's a
Yeah,
sexy move.
that happens in
Am
Cape
I making
Fear,
that
I
up?
Isn't there like
No.
Very sexy movie, Cape Fear.
that scene is super hot.
So he was wearing the gloves and she was biting them off
Yeah,
of his
and she
hands.
was like, 16.
Were they like
he
gardening
was
gloves?
40. But don't you think that's a sign? I feel like if I saw that.
No, I would.
I think as an adult, you should have been like, oh, these are my hands. Get
Right.
your mouth off of them.
How about you, Soren?
Yeah,
You went to a weird high school.
I went to a really weird high school. Just to preface this, I went to an outdoor-oriented high school where we like
What state?
Colorado.
Yeah.
Where we like birth cattle and stuff like that. I just been sitting there with my girlfriend. She left to go to class, and the janitor pulled me aside. And the janitor was a woman, and she said, "That girl's no good for you." I was like, okay. And so I have always had this deep suspicion that teachers care a lot about the lives of the students, that they're just as invested as the students are in who's dating who and when they break up. Because then this same girlfriend, after we did break up, and don't gasp, my rock climbing coach
Weird.
said, she's really devastated. You really let a good one get away. Are you sure you want to do this? And like tried to talk me back into being with my ex-girlfriend. And so I just assumed that teachers were all like, yeah, we care just as much about the students' lives as you do. Oh my God, those two broke up? Oh, thank God, maybe Kate will finally get with Jonathan.
So it's like fantasy sports for them.
Yeah,
Just like
it's all,
Yeah.
no janitor pulls a kid aside and is like, get a different girlfriend.
Dan, how about you?
Yeah, this is a weird thing to glaze over, but the topic is in the air. We lost like 4 teachers to having sex with students in my high school. I also went to a very weird place.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a huge bummer. I say lost like we miss them. We don't. They're bad. It is the official stance of crack that that's a bad thing to do.
That is a very bad
But it
thing.
was just one of those things that kept happening in our school for whatever reason. But the on-topic thing, the suspicion that I have about teachers is actually already confirmed for me. My mother was a middle school nurse, and I went to Chili's with my mom and a bunch of her teacher friends. You know how you don't have friends when you're in high school, and so you hang out with your mom and the music teacher at a different school? So I did that, and I sat down at Chili's to get some chips and some corn dogs and some Southwestern vegetable soup. Again, this podcast is sponsored by truTV, those who can. And as soon as we sit down and all these teachers and their little boy child friend is around, all the teachers immediately, one margarita, and they're like, did you see f***ing Bobby Simmons today? I hate Bobby Simmons. And all of them, I knew it. I always knew that all the teachers go to the teacher's lounge and they have kids that they just hate. And they're
Right.
like, I could have given him an A, but I gave him a D, because why not? Because I'm an adult and he can't question me. And I'm just sitting there watching them like openly hate and root against students in their school. And I'm like, I knew it. And then they fail a test and you're like, oh, I can't wait to tell them.
Can't wait to see the look on that little.
I have a question.
Thank you for raising your hand.
We're raising him. It's on theme. I appreciate it.
Of the 4 teachers that were expelled for
It's imprisoned, actually, but go on.
Expelled from regular life.
were they all male teachers?
One female.
Ooh.
Ooh, how progressive.
All right. Any suspicions you guys want to throw out there before we bring
Yeah,
our
I have one.
teachers up?
I have a friend who's a teacher, and she said that whenever they have like the teacher retreats like that, it's just like a hookup fest. All these teachers are like hooking up with each other. I can't imagine any 2 of my teachers ever hooking up, and so I'd be curious how accurate that is, or if she just goes to
I could.
school, a thirsty school.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's bring up our completely anonymous teachers whose faces are very blurry when you watch this on video. Come on up, guys. Our very brave teachers. We're going to be using Reservoir Dogs aliases. So you will be Mr. Blue, you will be Mrs. Blonde, and you will be Mrs. Brown. Are there like general cliques? Like, are history teachers like all drinking on the job, or?
Not on the job, but yeah. Actually, sometimes if I know that I'm showing a movie the next day, I'm like, sweet.
That's right. My history teacher showed Braveheart like 3 times a school year. Do you have like a go-to?
Do you ever think that they should be miniseries so you get more time?
Oh yeah, now that there's like Netflix and like
Yeah, you can-
The Wire,
just, like,
you can
drag-
just like
Yeah,
knock
yeah,
out
yeah.
an entire. Yeah.
Can I tell a story about when I was a student about a teacher who was sleeping with another student?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, those doors are open.
When I was a student in high school, we had a teacher who was sleeping with a student. He had given her a joint. When she went to the police, she told him everything. So then, you know, I remember they like came and interviewed me and my sister and a friend, and they were like, and the police officer kept saying, "Did you smoke the doobie?"
Right, he's a cartoon cop from the 70s and wanted to try out his slang. It's fine.
Yeah.
Backstage, Mrs. Brown, we were like deciding which Reservoir Dog character everyone would be, and she was like, as long as I'm not the narc. So she's a pretty cool chick.
As far as teachers drinking on the job, not on the job.
Oh yeah, which grade or grade range drinks the most?
Oh, that's a great question.
Thank you, Jack.
I've taught about 4 different grade levels at this point, and I would say when I was in the lower elementary school range, that's when I was like, every night, don't remember any of it.
That makes a lot of sense, though, because it's such a cakewalk every night. You don't have to, like, relearn trig just to teach it. You just get to go out there every night and be like, what are we working on tomorrow? We're going to be reading The K. It's fine.
Right.
I want to be clear that I'm not a legitimate teacher.
Did you just con your way onto the stage?
I don't know why
I
I'm
just got
here.
21 Jump Streeted.
Before he tells you about hooking up with the student. I work in an after-school program. It's a private, affair, so that means I don't have any credential or anything.
Okay.
I'm just here.
Okay, Adam, would you unblur his face, please?
But yeah, I mean, I work in after-school, position, which means we start at 12, which means I drink every day, and I haven't stopped since I started working there.
Your disclaimer makes more sense now.
Yeah, and then I was homeless for a second. Just for a second. They were like, why don't you just live at the school you work at? We have an extra classroom, and then I moved into the extra classroom, and it sucked.
So it was an open, like the person who ran the school knew you were there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't.
That's cool. You weren't just like
Squatters' rights.
What'd you sleep on?
I slept on a futon. I put a couch in there, a mini fridge. But it's funny. We had in the season, the teacher sleeps in the school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's trying to hide it from everybody, and they can obviously tell because he looks all shitty when he's coming around. Actually, on my driver's license, the address is still the school's address.
Oh man, that's amazing.
The San Gabriel Valley has cheaper insurance. I kept the address.
When I first moved to Los Angeles, I didn't have a house yet, and I was sort of living out of my Toyota Camry. And when I would audition, the address on my headshot said it was just my license plate number and then Camry place.
What about the suspicion that you guys will alter the grades of a really shitty kid?
Or just be excited when they fail.
Fail? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you give us any examples?
I had a student when I was teaching 2nd grade who she and I just did not click, and she really disliked me, and as much as I tried to love all of my students, I just couldn't love her. And she figured out that she could pee her pants to really piss me off, and it worked. So she would pee her pants, and I would send her to the front office to get some new pants. And then finally one day she peed her pants, and I saw she had this look on her face when she was peeing her pants. So I saw it coming. She snarkily raised her hand and was like, I peed my pants.
Oh, she was doing it to spite you,
Oh,
like specifically.
Oh, 100%. I was like, you know what? You're gonna sit in your pee pants for the rest of the day. And like everyone turned around and just looked at her. And I was like, I'm doing this to a second grader. We're going for it. Like, and from then on, not only did she sat in her pee pants for the rest of the day, and then her grades were a little bit lower from then on. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if, she.
Wait. Making her sit in the pee pants wasn't the punishment? The grades were the punishment?
It's a layered punishment. It's an onion punishment.
Dan was occasionally disruptive because he liked to tell jokes, and a teacher pulled him aside and was like, Dan, I know that you're the most popular kid in my class, and I need you to help me. So at any point when the class is out of control, I'm going to give you a signal, and you just get them back in line. And Dan, having that kind of power, was excited and like, yes. And the trick was, there was never going to be a signal. She was never going to get it. It was just now a way to get Dan to pay attention. And
this was the first day of class, the first day of school one year. It was like, when they're feeling, and it wasn't like get them in line. It was like, when I feel like the kids are like kind of falling asleep, I'm going to cue you to do your jokes. And I was like, not all heroes have capes. I will do this for you. Absolutely. And I would like come in every day looking at her like, is this the day? And she's like, no, sit down and do science, you jerk.
What's the most embarrassing thing you ever did in front of your class, or that your students ever caught you doing?
Well, it involves like falling, like tripping and falling. Or, I mean, that's embarrassing when you're like in front of a whole class full of students and it's like knees, elbows, face.
Face plant?
That happened. But it was really funny because this one kid, when that happened, he went, ha ha. And not even like a week later, he did the exact same thing. And you know what I did? Ha ha.
Did you?
And everybody got it. Everyone was like, yeah.
Yeah, before that laugh, though, when you fall like that, how do you regain your authority in the classroom? Like, how do you bounce back? Like, you just immediately stand up and suspend someone at random? Yeah. That leads me to a question, though. How well-liked do you think you are by your students, and is that important to you?
I would like to think that I'm well-liked despite letting my students sit in their pee pants. And I like my all-time favorite student. I think I gained a lot of respect one day from the other students, not necessarily from him. We were walking back in, and all of my students had to walk in hugs and bubbles so that they couldn't touch anyone or talk to anyone.
That's how I run the cracked offices as well,
So
hugs and bubbles.
my favorite student was at the end of the line, and they were walking back into the classroom, and I was just standing there in my hugs and bubbles because I didn't want to touch anyone or speak either. And just for some reason in my mind, I was like, this is it. Like, I gotta do it. And here comes my favorite kid, and I just like
tripped him?
People listening at home,
as slow as I could, stuck my foot out right as he was walking past. And this kid was a little cartoon character as is, and he just like ate it in front. Like, I hate, like, I promise I am a good but again, going back to I gained a lot of respect from the 5th graders in the hall and the 4th graders in the, like.
So it is prison rules. Like, you take a kid out, and then, like, everyone's like, oh, shit.
What other stories do you need from me to, like, shut?
Actually, I think we have what we need. Officers.
Most or least clever attempt at cheating you guys have ever busted?
We were going on a field trip, and students needed a permission slip, and one boy just was not turning in his permission slip, and I kept asking him for it, and finally he like pulled it out of his backpack, and it was just a crumpled mess, and he handed it to me. For the street address, it was like 4132Z. And then
Camry Place? Was it Camry Place?
I did that in 4th grade. I tried to forge a permission slip for a field trip, but I did it on a wooden door. Not only was I had 4th grade or handwriting, but I did it on a wooden door, so it was like especially shitty. And then I still turned it in, and they're like, "There's no way this is from your parents." And they called my parents, and I couldn't go on the field trip. So Crime doesn't pay.
I forged so many permission slips in high school that I thought if my mom actually signed something, I would get in trouble. Be like, this is not her signature.
Sorry, I was just going to say we're going to have people up to ask questions to any of us whenever.
Yeah, I have one actually. It's not historical, but it's we were taking the kids to like behind the scenes at the Santa Anita racetrack with horse races.
I want to go to your school.
Dude,
See somebody get shaken down.
Like teaching them how to gamble.
But anyways, we took them on the field trip, and we were like behind the, we were at the stables or something. And I'll never ever forget the question he asked to like the guide. He was like, "Do horses die?"
Oh my God.
And it was
So heartbreaking.
I had to stop the other kids from laughing. I was dying inside because it's tragically hilarious. But like I had to be the one who was like, "Don't laugh. Like let the guide answer the question."
Then you turn to the kid.
What do you tell him? Do you just say, no, horses are the glue to our society?
The glue of our society. Soren's funny.
I mean, she was just like, yes, they do die like other living things. She just kept a straight face the best she could.
They die, like you too will one day.
I had an 8th grade teacher though who, if we were talking, he would walk over to us and he would take, like, if you were wearing shorts, he would just like run his tennis shoe down your leg as hard as he yeah.
That was a
And for
great
like
gasp,
middle
the
school
audience.
girls, like we didn't shave our legs and the boys kind of had hair. Like it fucking hurt. Like, yeah.
I had an old coworker who was talking one time at a meeting, like about, it's so horrible. Like find out what makes this kid uncomfortable, and then like whisper it over them. Like when the kid's like being a jerk, you come up and you're like, "I know you think you're being funny, but we all can see your acne all over your face." Something really horrible.
I like that they trap you on the first day of school, and they're like, "We're gonna hand out index cards. Put your name. Put down your homeroom teacher. Biggest fear. What route you take to get
Greatest
home."
insecurity.
Our teacher that we hired to work at the after school was just a Ren Fair horsewoman, like
A Ren Fair horsewoman? Like she took care of the horses, or
she's
played
just
a horse?
into like people who are too into
Oh,
horses.
into horses. Yeah.
Yeah, like they've got horse items, like that kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
You are welcome on this podcast whenever you want to be here. By the way. I find you endlessly fascinating. You're my favorite guest I've ever had in my life.
I noticed throughout my high school and middle school experience that our teachers in general were much more lawless and kind of willing to let the kids do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Like they were willing to pretend in woodshop that wooden bong you were trying to make was a birdhouse. And like, they're like, yeah. I mean, it's not going to work. So I've got no complaints.
I hate the teachers who are the ones who are like, I am the savior of all students. But again, I feel like I'm now reflecting on my own practice, and I'm like, well, clearly I would hate that because of where I'm at as a teacher.
I feel like we've learned a lot here today.
Mr. Goody Two Shoes has hardly tripped any kids. Asshole.
Can I tell a story really fast?
Yes.
I have a friend, and I did get permission to tell this story, who had one of those just real troubled kids. Because what happened is he came in and he had a Sprite bottle, and my friend was like, you can't have a Sprite bottle. You can't have Sprite in here. And the kid, he's like, you need to close it. And the kid just like opened it, like looked him in the eye, like chugged it, and then threw it in the trash can. That's when my friend was like, okay, out in the hall. And, did the spiel and just glazed over. And he's like, okay, that's fine. You disrespect me. You're probably used to disrespecting your teachers. But, one day, maybe you'll get pulled over by a cop and you'll disrespect the cop. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to throw you in jail. And you know what? When you're getting fucked in the ass by your roommate, your cellmate, I want you to remember this conversation. The kid's eyes were like, oh, saucers. A couple days later, he's teaching class, and an administrator comes and he's like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? He like goes out in the hall. He's like, can you, hey, I've got this mom and a kid in the office. Can you kind of like recap what you told him? And so he like tells him everything. He's like, well, you know, I brought up the usual concerns about disrespect and this, and you know, and the administrator's like, okay. Well, Mom's in the office, and she's saying that you said that her son was gonna get f***ed in the ass. And he goes, and he is like, to his credit, he's like, yeah, I did say that. I did say that. And the administrator was like, okay. And he didn't get in trouble or any. I mean, I think it was sort of a combination of like them knowing he was a good teacher and them knowing that this kid was like a total shithead. But
A lot of time has passed and a lot of information has been dispensed. I want, just in case anyone has forgotten because of the drama of that story, the offense was a bottle of Sprite.
No.
Thanks to our teachers for coming out. And to Andrew and Maria for coming out, and Dan and Soren. Thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate it. Hey guys, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Please tune in to Those Who Can't Season 2, which airs on Thursdays at 10, 9 Central on truTV.